And welcome back to another Blue Collar Genius, where we invite you to come into an intimate setting and listen in on our conversations while I talk to interesting people who have interesting stories to tell. And I have a special guest this time, local boy gone good, author Jason Cheeks.
Yeah, just one cheek. Everyone likes to
Just
put an
one.
S on it. I don't know why, man.
Because it
but-
sounds better that way.
I guess so. It's just one, man. Just one cheek. So, yeah.
And you're, it's
Oh,
not just a single book either.
No, this a whole series for the world. This first book is the first login, but I wanted to go ahead and say thanks for everything. And,
Thank you.
Yeah, quick
Nice.
sign on it. I'm still getting used to the whole, signing books things, but people like that, so I'm trying to do it and pass out. But I just want to say thanks. I mean, Jason got a hold of me and he was talking to me, dude, it's so weird reading about your series because I'm Jason. I'm living in the same area where you're living, so I know all the same little spots. I'm also a motorcycle rider too, and it's like I'm reading about myself, but it's not about myself,
And I'm a gamer.
And I'm a gamer. So I just laughed my ass off because I'm like, and we started talking and we really hit it off. And I'm like, well, next time I'm coming, I work overseas with the Department of Defense in Germany. For the U.S. Department of Defense in Germany, so with the DLA organization. But I've been over there since 2009, so I come back every couple of years to visit family and show the wife around because she likes the U.S. a lot. She just loves coming down and checking everything out.
So let me ask you this. So how hard was it to write the first fucking book? Oh, and if you're wondering why we got the big ass mugs and the weird beer, Jason had a preference for a actual German beer, and I found some, and we drinking that shit, motherfuckers.
Hefeweizen is the first beer I had in Germany. I was on my way to Poland to meet my wife, and I'm not a big beer drinker at all. That's not my forte. But I have to say the beer is good, and it's I was just surprised how good the beer is over in Germany. That's why we got it. He found some actual bottled in Germany beer, and it's a big difference in this stuff here in the U.S.
So, but to the thing that everyone wants to know about, what's the difference? How hard was it to write that first book?
Actually, my first book was the Last Paladin series, and I did the first two books there, and that was hard. Like, I tend to do what I say. So if I'm going to go skydiving, I'm like, I'm going to go skydiving, and people are like, yeah, and then you do it, and like, holy shit, you went skydiving. And I'm like, I said I was. So for the book, I was doing Star Wars Old Republic, and I just didn't like the storylines in it. I'm like, I could do better than this. And then once I said it, I'm like, well, then let's see, can you do better than this or not? And then my wife went to the hospital, and I was just really stressed, and I was trying to come up with a new idea, and I ran into Lit RPG from D Rust, the Play to Win series.
Okay, great series.
Yeah, and I just got into it, and I was like, well, damn. I read Dragon Wrath 2 from the guy died, I think. You don't even see his books aren't even out anymore to pick up. But after that, I sat down, and when my wife was in the hospital for 3 months, I wrote in a month and a half the first login. It took me a month and a half to knock it out, and then it took me about 2 months for the next two books. They were actually written as one whole book, and it would have been a massive size book, about 1,000 pages, and I split it up into three, which worked out really good because as soon as I released the book series, I got attacked by a group of authors that were trying to close down new writers, and they gave me a hard time and stuff before the fans came back and said, no, you didn't copy your friend's book. The book's unique, and there's nothing particularly one way or another about it. You can only start out a game so many different ways. Either you start a game and you're playing, either you die and you're in the game, or you get stuck in the game. Lit RPG, there's only so many ways you can start an MMO style game.
Yeah, you either body dies, you die somehow,
or you're stuck in the game,
or you're stuck inside a virtual reality. There's only two series that I can think of that the characters actually bounce back and forth between life and the virtual world. And then, of course, one of my favorite is always the you die and gods intervene and drag you to a new world that runs on an RPG-based system.
I mean, I love the whole genre because I'm a huge gamer. I've been gaming all my life. When I got back from serving overseas, the first thing I started doing was gaming. I started doing Descent Online, Quake, Unreal Tournament. And I mean, we had LAN parties at the house, 20, 30 people every weekend or every other weekend for about 15 years in a row. And then the ones like in the MMOs, you just disappear. You get into an MMO, and I had a huge guild. That was a whole thing, and I just loved the genre so much. And all of a sudden, I realized I could write about it. I mean, that's awesome, man. I mean, I just love. I've been gamer all my life, so being to write about it and being mixed in Dungeons and Dragons and all this stuff with it. And my first D&D game, my name was actually Starter Iron Wolf, which is the hero's name. Now my gamer handle was Starfire for everything else, but either way, they always called me Star. So later on, they came out with Starfire with the in the Teen Titans, and I'm like, oh, you're part of the Teen Titans? Is that why you did that name? I'm like, no.
Well, I'm gonna go back to something you were talking about, the attacks on you, and I actually read some of the multi pages where they put it out, and
Yeah.
the interesting thing is they're like, they bring up you used a certain skill, and it's like okay, but if anyone coming from a military background, essentially are gonna be using a similar type term. There's only so many ways to describe
military conditioning, which military conditioning has been used in other MMOs and used in other games. And it's not a new term. In D&D, they had it for a lot of different species too, more of the warlike species. So it's not a brand new term. And for military, I've served in the military. I've been working for the U.S. government overseas since 2009 when I started working for the government. And it's like, military conditioning is just a normal thing they use on base. So they picked out this one term now, and that's hardly even used in the story. And like, yeah, you use that one term in the whole book.
And someone else used the same type of term, but no, it's what was real
like strength, intelligence.
Well, that was the whole thing. Is it's like you're using common trope that every other writer uses. How dare you?
They said something about, oh, you had a female voice for the computer voice in the intro, and I'm like,
98% of all games do.
Yeah, and I'm like, I mean, I would imagine it's because usually you do have female voice. I'm just thinking of World of Warcraft and how many the intro voices were. But yeah, I mean, it's nothing new. It's just they just wanted. I found out later on after we started. I had fans started kind of gathering up information and stuff, and they have the Gamelit. One of the Gamelit groups are majorly controlled by them, and it's almost like they invite new writers in. And they want you to say, "Hey, I got a new book out," and then they go and slam it. So I've been warning people who were talking to me about wanting to become a writer. I said, keep away from a lot of Facebook groups until you get some real reviews, and then you can weather the hammer you're gonna get. And I know this one guy, one of these podcast guys. Every person who comes out with a lit RPG book is hammered by him, and he's a lit RPG gamelit writer too, so he's actually just hammering the competition. So if you're not his buddy, you're gonna get kissed by that hammer.
Oh, we all know fucking weak ass PKers like that in gaming too. You know,
it worked out great. It's like game with real life all into gaming. You know, I mean, you always have those groups of people who want to push everyone else down and just be bullies and stuff. Well, and I hate bullies, man.
It's interesting, like, because we discussed a little bit of this when we met up a couple days ago.
Yeah. By the way, just to let you know, Jason was awesome. I mean, okay, so shooting and stuff and guns is a huge no-no in, like, Europe. You just don't see it. My wife and my daughter and her friend were kind of afraid of guns. They just never been around them. And I tried to talk to them about it, but they didn't understand. So when they first went down, we went shooting at Palm Beach Shooting
Center. Yeah, thank you guys as well.
Yeah, it was called Shooters a long time ago. I'm aging myself when I talk about that. I mean, Jason's like, wasn't that like 25 years ago? I'm like, yep. I'm an old fucker. So
what he doesn't point out is I'm old enough to know what he's talking about.
That's the funny part. But the girls were all like, wow, he's so funny. He's so cool and stuff. How old is he? And I'm like, he's like 40 something. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yeah. So you don't look your age at all. And they had a great time shooting with you. And so after we started shooting, we walk in and you see all the guns and stuff. It's like serious. It's guns. It needs to be taken seriously. That's serious attitude. And then once we went in, and the rifle, it looks like such a rifle you'd see like in a wars or military. It was pretty scary for the AR-14?
AR-15.
AR-15. And but they had a lot of fun. But when we went to handguns, they really enjoyed the handguns. And it's just shooting. And then you got the competition of trying to do better than the other person on the targets. And really, that's what it's about. It's about just knowing how to use a weapon, knowing how to properly be safe with it, and we went. Jason was great. I haven't been shooting since 29 years since I was in the service, so I need a refresher too. So definitely got into loading the clips, getting the guns, shooting them, and we did a 45, a 9mm, and the AR-15, and just had a blast. Girls loved it, and we had all these pictures. So it's on my Facebook page, Jason Andrew Cheek. You can find me on Facebook, and you can check out the pictures. But we had a great time, so thank you. I mean, that just made the trip.
Oh, I'm glad I could accommodate you, and it worked out. It was a lot of fun for me too.
Yeah. It's not bad that there was 3 pretty ladies to kind of
The view was nice. Excluding your daughter, who was your daughter, and all I thought of her was as your daughter.
Yeah. She's 23 and she's very pretty. So, I mean, yeah. And they actually, they were like, they enjoy flirting too. So, her friend's 20 and she actually, I think, looks older than my daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. And my daughter's actually 23, but I guess it's just good genes. That's the Polish Italian genes, I guess. My daughter's always like, I'm German. I'm like, you don't have any German blood in you whatsoever. You were born in Germany.
You're German by nationality, but that's it.
Yeah. So I give her a hard time about that. But her mother is a looker. What can I say? I looked out there. Yeah.
No, and kind of jumping around, like we talked about. Like part of what happened was one of the reasons why you became one of my favorite authors is I read your first book, and there's a lot of local landmarks mentioned in it. And I'm like, I'm gonna holler at this dude, see if he replies. He may never fucking read this, but maybe he will. And you did, and we got into a very long conversation, hours worth over a couple days, which was awesome. And one of the things, they say life imitates art and art imitates life. And, you and I got into some serious discussions, in fact, how similar, and ways we've gone and things we've done, just not always the results were the same for both of us.
Now, my style right now is more of a European style because my wife
buys your clothes.
Yeah, she does. I mean,
the joys of being married, you don't have to go shopping; they go shopping for you.
Yeah,
you just have to wear what they buy.
Shoes are ridiculous, but you know what though? I have to say that the women love it. She has all these hot friends, and they're always like hitting on me and stuff, and I'm like, really? I mean, but and then you go on the American bases and stuff, and you get hit on a lot by that. But whatever. I mean, it's so even though I wouldn't have chosen. I basically would have been in trunks, flip flops, and I would have had a T-shirt if I needed it, and my board would have been in the back of the pickup truck, and my dogs would have been in the cab. That's how I usually roll. I'm a surfer. What can I say? And well, I was a surfer. Once you're a surfer, you're kind of always a surfer. And that's how you could found me. But my wife kind of dressed me up a little bit. So I like the style, so I follow it. It's great for Florida.
It's probably pretty comfortable, too.
Yeah, it's really lightweight. I mean, it's great for the heat and stuff. She actually got me this hat since I'm kind of bald now. So it actually works out good. I can't complain.
I beat you there.
Dude, I don't know how you do it, man. I mean, because that sun's brutal.
On long rides, if I forget, it fucking hurts.
Yeah.
I made the trip up to Orlando on the bike and back for Social Distortion, and forgot to put a hat cover on or any kind of covering in. Ooh, was my head burned on the ride home when I rode during the day.
Well, that's the other thing is you have to have helmets in Germany and stuff. So, I mean, I'd throw on some trunks to go down to the beach, some flip flops and my backpack and sunglasses, and get on the bike, and she just shakes her head at me. She just can't believe that. But we had a great time. I mean, that's how you roll in Florida.
Where'd you mostly surf?
Jupiter Beach, because to Jupiter Beach you could get about 3 feet consistently throughout the year. If there was a storm off the coast, you could get about anywhere from 5 to 15 feet. But honestly, I'm a big pussy when it comes to that.
Do you ever surf up at Sebastian?
No, I didn't do Sebastian. I've done Lake Worth Beach when there was a tropical storm off the coast. And those waves get up to 10 to 15 feet right there, and it's a short break. But I was only boogie boarding then, so I mean.
Fellow sponger.
But you throw on one fin, so you can jump on it and you can catch every wave.
I run 2 fins, but whatever.
Well, because it's harder to kind of pop up and get back out there when you're in the sand.
Well, that's why you get Makapoos, so they got the short little fins.
Okay, I haven't done the short fins. Okay, I had at the time I had the long fin. But then there was a group of guys who'd jump off the Palm Beach, the Lake Worth Pier.
And the Boynton Inlet.
Yeah,
pier.
Well, they would jump off the pier, and there was another break about half a mile out, and so they would ride that break usually with the boards, and then they'd come in and do the short one. that short one I got pounded. Even the boogie board I was pounded. I mean, you have a 15-foot wave just slam you into the sand and then collapse on top of you, man. So yeah, anyways, it's when we started talking and realized we were on the same area and stuff. And
Oh, yeah, it was great. And the how many, like I said, parallels, just even with foreign travel and women
because
troubles.
with the Polish and stuff, yeah, and then also with the service. I mean, yeah. Well, you were a soldier, right? I
No,
mean,
I was
Oh, your girlfriend was a soldier.
No, oh yeah. Well, I had a girlfriend, my sister, my grandfathers. Yeah, but yeah, no, I lost a kidney when I was 15, and that made me military ineligible.
That's right. I was in love with a Japanese girl out of Tokyo. Her name was Kei Kaoru Ono, and I went over to Korea because I thought that we would be closer, and it ended up being just a pain in the butt. I mean, it was one of those Dear John situations, and I finally got out of the long-term relationship. But I thought I would never do overseas again. And then I had Anya, my wife, contact me from Germany, and we started talking. And I'm like, I don't want to date you. We can be friends. I'm not interested because I'm pretty hardcore about that. I had a bad 3 abusive. So Julia in the story is actually based off of my real gaming girlfriend who we broke up, and it was a pretty bad. She was a second best gamer in our group. She was hardcore, but she like to put the pussy out to everybody,
She really couldn't beat you ever, or
No, she never. That's the we. Some people give me shit about that in the story, but I really come from we did. I could take on my whole LAN party in a tournament or even Quake, and they just couldn't take me. And we would do sometimes 3 of the best players against like 16 or 18 people, and sometimes they could beat us in a situation like that. But one-on-one, it sounds like I'm talking shit, but it just was the way it was. And I remember John, one of our friends, he's like, I've been playing you 8 years and I never beat you once. And I'm like, yeah, deal with it. You're not going to win unless you win. I mean, I'm not just going to give it to you. And the few times I did, like Dominic gives me shit. He's like, you let me beat you one time, and then you told me you did. And he goes, dude, you just ruined it. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm not good with that.
So, for people who maybe wanting to be authors or whatnot, the characters in your book, are they archetypes of people? Are they?
They're based off of real friends.
They're actually based off of people. They're not just a little bit of this person, a little bit. They are.
Some of them are like Kinsey. Kinsey is based off of like the military women I've served with when I was in the army, and even Thomas is kind of an archetype of a soldier. I'm really big into the whole people serving overseas and the veterans coming over and people who have been injured in combat and stuff. So bringing them into the story was a really big thing for me. And I actually had a lot of military people who contacted me. There was a group of guys, and I forget the guy's name. He's in Afghanistan, and they were all talking about, well, would we really do Feyre or not? Feyre is a centaur in the story that the main character starts messing around with.
And you got a lot of shit for that too, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I think the whole crazy thing is in gaming you would be trolls, you would be orcs, you'd be all kinds of different creatures, and you'd have a bard, or people would always be hitting on the girls inside the D&D game, or you'd be dancing your character no matter how ugly they were, and you were all proud, and you'd do some little bit of cybering, or you'd dance and just think you're sexy as hell, and people would meet up, and that's all part of the whole gaming and the MMO kind of theme. And then Game Lit and Lit RPG comes out, and there's all these beast girls, and so what's the big? They even have centaurs or ant girls and stuff. And the thing
big popular one is cat girls. We all know.
Yeah, well, yeah, gotta love
especially in harem. Lit RPG, always a cat girl.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I love
and
all
a vampire.
that.
It's usually cat girl, vampire girl, and werewolf girl. Those are the 3 big ones.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and
You bunch of fucking perverts.
Yeah, but what can I say?
Werewolf girl and vampire girl, come see me.
Yeah, because they're hot.
Cat girl, I'm not into felines, but
I don't know. Cat girls are hot. But anyways, so
only during Halloween.
All these people get all funny about it.
Well, it's because it's not a cat or a dog or a vampire. It's a horse.
Yeah, it's a horse. Well, I had some people. They started pitting, like, some of the authors put the sex organs in front, so it's not bestiality because they're having it's in the front. And I'm like, what? How does that even work? So, and again, I'm like, when it comes with that whole thing, it's kind of like something about Mary. I did a drunken scene where they were where they the centaur gets drunk and they start kissing, and it just kind of goes from there. I just took it to the hilt.
Hey, it's got human tits. It counts
She's
as a
hot.
person.
Hey, Farrah is hot as hell. Well, from the front, and she's a good-looking woman, and she's also very capable too.
And she's got a
which
big old ass too.
yeah, she got a big old ass.
Oh, horse
And
ass.
Yeah. So when the fans were like, "That's gonna be like throwing a hot dog down the hallway," and I didn't even know what the term was. I had to look that shit up, and I was like, we're gonna have a whole conversation. Me and Dominic had to talk about it. Dominic's actually one of my real gaming friends, and he's actually in the story and stuff. And that's actually most of the story is going to save his ass. It's based off of our StarCraft games we used to have, where we always had to save his ass because the computer was coming after him and stuff. So it's actually based off of our real life kind of gaming styles. And we're gonna have a talk where we discuss the bestiality thing. We're gonna have Phoenix having a whole having a relationship with a wolf girl and stuff, and she's like, "Why are you doing the bestiality thing?" I'm like, "Dude, you're messing around with a wolf girl," and we're gonna have this whole discussion, which basically comes down to she understands what she's doing, she can communicate. She's not an animal that doesn't.
It's not an animal that's got no.
Yeah.
It's a thinking,
It's
breathing, intelligent being
Yeah.
who just happens to
Have-
not look like you or I.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And then I got hit sometimes because it was so quick. But when I was 20, how many times did you hook up with someone you thought they were the love of your life, and you had a great weekend, and you thought you were going to marry them, and then a couple of days later it blew up in your face? I mean, I'm just saying. I mean,
I get where you're going. Oh, here's the way
Las Vegas makes a living on that.
Oh, the way I look at it is anyone that has an issue with the centaur scene is obviously either has an issue with homosexuality or trans people or people of non-binary or any of that because they're all consenting intelligent adults. And if you have a problem with consenting intelligent adults choosing to do things, then you have a issue against select groups for whatever reason.
Yeah, because
that's where I look at it. Like you're discriminating because you're discriminating. That's it. You're just discriminating.
Yeah. Well, like Phoenix actually is a fan. I was talking with John Fay, and John Fay, we were talking about his character because I need to make sure I could use his name because he was always John Fay, and that's his name. And John Fay is kind of his big personality. Once he comes in the story, you'll see more about him. But Matt overheard me talking about making his character, and was it okay if I brought him in? And he's like, "Could you make a character for me? I like to play Phoenix, and I like to play girl characters. And I've played with a lot of girl characters in the past. I mean, you're gonna be playing 18 hours on an MMO game, falling behind someone's back. I want to be a hot chicks that I'm looking at. Hey, it's just the truth. I mean, I don't want to look at
I know people that said the same. I have my buddy, one of my very good friends whose gamer tag was Beeblebrox 42. Always played a female character for that reason. He's like, bro, if I gotta look, I don't want to see a big fat ugly troll's ass.
Well, I did play a Tauren for a while because they were just cool. A male Tauren. I also played a female before too, but and the little old gnomes in World of Warcraft were freaking awesome. I mean, they just were kooky guys that you just had to play a gnome. I mean, they're just cool. You're at people's kneecap size, but I mean, where were we, man?
It don't matter. We go out in the weeds in this show.
Yeah.
But no, one of the things I really actually appreciate, because I've read all 5 of your books that are out as of now, there's 2 things that one, I've seen that you've broken the standard archetype in lit RPG. You don't put the entire fucking character sheet in every fucking other chapter, whatever, which I personally appreciate. I remember us talking about it.
I wish I would have figured that out earlier. I wish I would have figured that out in their first book. But at the time, everyone was pitting.
That's the way it was done.
Yeah.
And it is done still by the most part. But I personally appreciate it because every time you, and from my point of view, every time you put that character sheet with all those fucking skills, even if it's
just flip past it.
God. I flip past it, and it's a break of immersion from the story.
Yeah, it's also filler for the writer because we get paid per page for the most part. If you're just reading it on Kindle Unlimited, we're getting paid per page. And the other thing is, and so that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I don't think most of these people are paying for anything.
Well, and it makes me, when I read it, I feel like the author can't be a real gamer. Because any real gamer when you're talking to your fellow guildmates, friends, party members, whatever, even though you level up, you don't go, oh, I got this and this and this and this and read off your whole character sheet. You're like, nice. Now I got my strength up to 25.
Yep.
And I picked up this spell. And that's it. Like, just
Yeah, I started doing that from book 4 because I just so someone came out, one of the main people in Lit RPG came out with book 7, and it seemed like a good majority of the book was charts and stats and stuff. You know what? If I want to look at that, put that in the book. I'll look at it there. I mean, I don't really want to go through the whole book, and every time it comes up, have 20 pages I'm flipping through just because of stats and stuff. I just really want to read a story, and if I'm really interested in that, hey, it's at the back of the book. Check it out. And I had some of those guys try to give me shit for, well, number one, I wasn't gamer. Number two, oh, you're putting everything in the back and you're not doing all the stats and everything. Yeah, I'm having a story. I'm only showing you what's changing. So book 4 and book 5, you only see.
Yeah, and I noticed that it definitely shrunk down, more like gaming. Personally, as a reader who ferociously reads, authors who don't get away from that, I've stopped reading their work completely. No matter how much I might like the series, because it's just such a break of immersion, and it annoys the fuck out of me. Like, I'm like, really fucking.
It annoys the crap out of me too. It really does. And maybe if you're one of those few people who like, well, I do say few. I don't think that everyone likes all the. I mean, there's some people who really get into the mathematics and that stuff, and they try to figure out and math. And I'm like, it's basically a story. We're not making a video game. We're doing our best to make you believe it's a game. And trying to tell a good story. And I think it's really about the story. It's about the characters. It's about the world. And then I get hit a lot because I'm not racing it to the end game and then finishing the series. I mean, the series is going to go out at least 100 books, maybe more. I've read this. I forget the guy's name. He does Star Force. Excellent series. He's on book 65 or something. And it's still great. So I want to do the same thing. I want to have this huge world where you could just read it and it's just interesting. The interactions between the friends and stuff are real. And I did take the interactions from our real gaming groups, but I made us all the same age, about the same age. We all went to the same school. There's differences, but they're kind of based off of their general personalities. Like, people love Hefe, and Hefe was this big, goofy guy, 6'4". I mean, he'd give you a hug and he'd break your nose almost. I mean, he just was a great guy. Yeah, and he's that way in the story. The funny part is the whole Pookie Bear and Shookum Nukum's thing. He did that in real life. So you see this big oaf of a guy with his 5-foot girlfriend, and they're like, Pookie Bear. I had to bring that into the story. It's one of those things you want to puke and you laugh at the same time, but it's funny. So,
well, another thing I appreciate is how you do really capture the different archetype of players. Of, like, you describe your character, which, as we discussed, is based on you, as someone who tries to get every fucking skill out there.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I've always played that way. I was a guy who had fucking 8 characters, so that you could do all the crafting and you could build anything in the game. I had every skill possible. I wish I could have had it all in one character, but they usually force you to split it out.
Only 2 or 3 at the most.
Yeah.
But no, I know I've met and dealt with players like yourself.
And most people most people like to focus on their own thing. They don't like to be a mage. They like to be a rogue. They don't like to craft. They might gather for the money because you can't beat it for making the money unless if you're playing the auction house. Like Jason, I'm bringing Jason into the story. I'm gonna have to think of a good way to do it. We're gonna be doing some wheeling and dealing, and I'm gonna have to talk to him because I could just see that being a
yeah. Well, that was the thing. Like, I had friends, that did everything. Some that only took skills. They took any crafting. If they had to have it for their character, they had characters like you did, but only on those. And then there was guys like did everything. And then, I learned very early, money in a game, in-game currency can get you whatever you want. And the easiest place to make money is on the market or auction house.
He was also one of these guys that would be like, hey, I'm going to offer this thing of copper. Instead of for 25 silver, I'm going to slip in that 25 gold piece there.
Oh, that was only one in like 20.
And you'd just be clicking away, and then you're like, oh, fuck.
Yes, yeah. I was that pain in the dick scammer that I'd put up 10 items at 25 silver, and then there was one in there that was 25 gold.
Dominic got pulled by one of those guys, and it was when we were doing the mounts, and I think it was 50 gold. He lost all of his money for a mount. 50 gold at that point in time when you first started Classic WoW was huge money, and he lost all his money for the mount. I'm trying not to laugh at it. I'm like, dude, why did you click on it? But I ended up getting the money back because there was a big. I mean, characters meant something then, and there was a whole bunch of there were the guilds and how you did interactions with each other had a lot of meaning. And again, in the old MMOs, you lived the game. We all played those games easily 12 hours, 14 hours during the week. We only got a little bit of sleep, and then on the weekends we were playing until we passed out, which was like 4 in the morning. And you
On Sunday, before you go to work.
Man, Friday we'd play until like 4 in the morning. We'd get a couple hours of sleep, and the first thing we did was log back in. And some people were giving me shit about Star playing so many hours, and I'm like, no, really. Yeah, there was PC Gamer came out with this cover where they had for Quake when Quake 3 came out, and it was a toilet for the seat, and they had a toilet roll off the monitor, and they had like a water gerbil bottle next to the,
That really described us, though. Really, I mean,
really did.
The only time we left is to go take a bathroom break, and we
Yeah.
ate at the computer.
Yep.
You drank at the computer. When you went to the bathroom, you picked up, you took your entire fucking mess, dumped it in the garbage can. You had a mini fridge stocked by your computer that you could reach for whatever you were going, so you didn't have to get up. And when you went, you restocked the mini fridge with drinks, whatever it was. A lot of us were Mountain Dew at the time, or Surge,
Anything with heavy caffeine.
or Jolt.
Yeah, Jolt Cola Balls was actually a vanilla flavored soda that was
I was Jolt. I was a Jolt guy. I was never a balls
yeah,
guy.
balls.
I
is
don't want to
okay.
put balls in my mouth, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm not gonna judge, but
Yeah, you put balls in your mouth one time and you're a cocksucker, right? What did I say?
yeah. Yep, suck one dick and
Yeah,
you're a cocksucker for life.
No, so balls was the big thing, but Jolt Cola, I did Jolt. I wasn't a Mountain Dew guy, but most of everyone else was Mountain Dew.
That was the big what did they gave you? It still is.
I think we did balls just because they did sponsor some of the LAN parties and stuff, so we always had to hold up the balls. And it wasn't bad, and the caffeine was good, but I just went back to Jolt Cola after the picture was over, so.
I remember when 5 Hour Energy first came out, there was a game that was in beta. They were trying to release it.
Does that really work? I've heard about it.
Yeah. Except for the B12 will make you shit your pants sometimes.
Oh, well, okay.
So you got to run to the bathroom real quick. But
talk about gaming.
there was I wish the game had come out. It was one of the best competitive games I'd ever seen. It was a melee sword-based combat game, totally built on competitive PvP. And its development was sponsored by 5 Hour Energy early on when they were first coming out. And I actually won.
What was it called?
I fucking cannot remember.
There was a game that was called Dark something Dark. Dark. It was an MMO that was all. It was like a first-person shooter. You actually casted spells like you would be in a first-person shooter. You actually used swords and arrows like you would in a first-person shooter. And it was an MMO style game. And it's called Dark something. But that was a huge game. If I had known about that, I would have jumped in that in a heartbeat. By the time I heard about the game, I was already finished with gaming. After the whole thing with Julia and so the funny thing with Julia is that whole scene where I have the whole the whole we were going back and forth was actually what we did in real life. And it actually was a lot harder to write that part than I realized. Is your brother coming or not?
Yeah, people are coming. Sorry.
Right. No, it's okay. Hey.
No, well, I was looking for.
I might be the center of attention.
No, I was looking. There was. I can't remember what the fuck it was called. There was an old MMO. It was PvP based.
I swear to God, that was Dark something, but that was actually out and they were playing it. See, now you're gonna make me look it up. Man, this beer. How do you like the beer?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's not the dark. What is it? What's the Irish beer that you drink?
Guinness.
Guinness. It's not that. It's not Guinness, but it's not bad.
Let's see.
Look it up.
Now
But
I gotta look this up. It's what is it?
we used to play a lot of stuff. We used to do the whole StarCraft stuff, and we'd had just a huge amount of fun. Unreal Tournament. I almost went pro in Unreal Tournament. I was really close to going that way, and we went. Our group drove up to Ohio and played the international teams. These teams that are making six-figure incomes. And they looked at me and they were like, if you practice a little bit more, you could be on a team. These guys had an A team and a B team. They had people who were standing over their shoulders, timing the power ups and stuff. and they made
Damn.
6-figure incomes.
Damn.
I was so tempted. But then I didn't do it because I was like, I would have definitely not had a relationship if I would have done that. Which is kind of like how Star is currently in the world. He had a bad relationship, so the whole Julia thing kind of soured him. So I have a lot of plans for the whole thing. The world is supposed to it's going to be the size of the Earth. The training era right now is up to level 50, and people are like, well, that's like a level 50 for a training era. That's extreme. You know what? The game's gonna just go out and go out. I got the I'm gonna have floating continents and then the underwater empires. So it's just gonna be a wild ride.
Damn, this is bugging the hell out of me. I can't fucking think. It had a fucking minotaur
That's
on
what
the.
you talk getting old.
Yeah, it had a minotaur on the cover. It was a brutal PvP RPG.
See, I mean, I like a hard game. I
Like,
really like.
when
a hard
you
game
died,
that-
you dropped everything you had.
No, that's kind of hard. That's hardcore.
And-
I almost thought I almost did that, but it was so hardcore. I decided not
And
to.
they had permadeath servers, so if your character was killed, start over.
See, for a PvP server, you die so much in PvP. I don't like the permadeath for that. I mean, you just die so much. And PvP, like, so in book 5, when we did the PvP, I mean, doing the corpse run is just part of that. How many times did it? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and it was. I thought though. I mean, I had to kill Starfire a few times, and for better or for worse, I played Starfire like I used to play in my real gaming days. I didn't die. I mean, I played that good. I played that good with our friends. Now when I first started. I mean, when you first learn how to play, you learn hardcore mode, and that was how it was. You got your ass worked until you could get good enough that you could stand on your own. But once my game, I mean, for years, I just was the top of the LAN party, and I just did not die too frequently. Under a tournament and the first-person shooters, you would die in those, but it would be, I would die on Facing Worlds, and I would be over on the in the base 3 seconds later. I mean, you could
just run it again.
When I translocate over, I mean,
Okay.
the translocator was a humongous weapon. I use it as a weapon and as for travel, so you could throw it and translocate, 3 translocates you across the map, and then you could translocate up to the castle and go up on top. You could translocate into the middle, and usually you'd have a sniper there that you'd always pick out with the translocator and kill them on the entrance, and then I'd be back in the base. So I mean, really, when it wasn't until we went to Ohio and played those internationals teams, I hadn't lost until then. I mean, I really was. We'd go all around the area and play people at the different LAN parties and just make people cry. I ran into Dominic at a LAN party. He had his whole group. Him and his this other guy, I think his name's Mike, was the only people who kept on playing with us. Other LAN party just refused to play with him because they got beat so bad. And instead of stepping up and getting their game better, they just pussed out.
Yeah, no. Not only did I do the online games, I got into the strategy card games and stuff like that.
I like it. I've never played them, but I like them. I like how you're doing it, where you have a shared deck. You don't have people paying to win for
Shards of Infinity, people.
Yeah.
That is probably, if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering, this is the one to play. And
because I can imagine you go to play and all of a sudden someone bought this unique deck that's more expensive, and then they're waiting for that. I kind of regret doing the Nightmare Start on one level just because people were saying it's a little bit pay to win, but because he paid because the Nightmare Start cost a little bit. Did it cost more money? No, it didn't cost more money. It's the Advanced Start and the Nightmare Start is the same thing for the P&M exam, but
it was the penalty if you failed.
Yeah, it hurts. I mean, 75% pain threshold is huge, and also the game's always trying to take you out. And the game's really made for advanced players, which is like a level 40. And I just in book 6, there's going to be a hot fix that's going to make the NPCs and monsters a lot harder. And you really need to be an advanced player to do that. But I'm going to bring in calisthenics in ways that you can actually level up your strength and intelligence and stuff, different ways to do that.
So obviously, these books are not only inspired by your life, but by the gaming experiences you had and stuff like that.
But it's also like, I want a good game. There's not that many good MMOs. They're all so easy. I would really wish there would be a hardcore Fiverr game that would come out that you could play. And people, I think people were saying, "Oh, no one would ever pay for something like that." Yeah, they would. People would pay to play something that was so realistic you couldn't tell the difference almost between real world and fantasy world. And I mean, most of us, I think, would like to escape to another world. I mean, I always felt out of time and out of place.
Well, that's the reason why we play video games or read books is
Yeah,
to
for that
go to
escape.
another world. You
Yeah.
know, it's just one puts it right in your face and they show you exactly what their vision is. The reason why I like reading over that is the author tries to describe something, but my own imagination makes the depiction. So even though the author may have this image in mind, it's still unique to me because even unless the author is somehow super descriptive, which always bugs the fucking piss out of me.
Yeah, how did I do on that? I mean, I'm pretty descriptive, but I'm trying not to be over descriptive.
I would say you didn't go overboard. It was enough that I got
To create
close.
the world, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was times where like I saw some of your illustrations come out,
Mhm.
which definitively defines what it's supposed to look like. I'm like, that's not exactly how I pictured it, but it
Yeah.
works. It's very, very close to what or similar to what I had in mind.
Yeah.
Which is a nice thing when you see this is what I actually had in mind.
Well, I get it. So I do a lot of I do a lot of Pinterest, and I'll do a lot of Google searches for different pictures, just looking at the artwork, and the artwork gives you so many ideas. And then you take that artwork and you work into something for the story that's different. And like Helgath was a complete accident. Did not plan to have Helgath. I was actually planning to do all this stuff with her brother, and then Helgath kind of just everything kind of worked out. I mean, I had to clear out all the eggs from all the victims. I had to, and the whole the slave room did a lot of good stuff too. And she's now going to be a huge character. I actually had this whole fecal kinesis I was going to do for her spell in book 5, and I had a beta reader kind of talk me out of it. But it will be in book 7 for sure. So, yeah, it's going to be some interesting stuff that she does to people who piss her off.
So sometimes the story takes over from what you had planned.
Yeah, you can't. You have characters that come to life. You can't write them any other way, and then sometimes things work out, and you go with it because it's just so awesome and it fits the characters right. And a lot of people don't understand that. You can't write if you write a character in a way that doesn't fit them. You break the story, and you break the reader's imagination. It's like watching sometimes. Sometimes I used to do Star Trek all the time, and Janeway on Voyager, they would write her really cool, and other times you get like a new writer who changed everything that she was doing, and you're like, oh, this sucks. And I think it's the same thing for any writer. You need to follow that character's. You built this whole character up with all these past actions. If you ignore it completely and do something completely else, then
It's out of character, and you're wondering what the fuck
what the
you're
fuck
looking at.
happened? Yeah. So
No,
yeah.
I completely get you on that one. I'm totally following that.
Yeah, so they actually try to bring their own lives, and then also I have some of my friends who now are reading the series and stuff like Sarka. Sarka's kicking my ass because I didn't call her dazed, and I didn't, and we weren't talking about it, but now that they're reading the series and stuff, they're loving the series, and in real life, I brought them into as new gamers to Battlefield 1942, but in the story, I brought them in as new gamers for the world, and that was. She's still giving me a hard time about that because by the time she got into MMOs, she was playing hardcore, and she was at the top of the PvP tournament scene and everything. So she's like, I'm going to have to change her a little bit to fit her true character. But we got all these people were real friends of mine, and we talk about stuff. And I'll talk with Dominic or Sarka or all these people, and I'll be like, we're having a conversation. I'm like, I'm bringing that into all these are coming right into the freaking storyline. So.
Oh, that's fucking awesome. Now, let me ask you something completely off topic. So you were in the military, you were in the army, right?
Yeah, I was in the army.
And how much did that affect the trajectory of your life? Like, did it change the way you were going? Did it put you on a specific path?
It got me on a better path. I mean, the military, I came from a really abusive past. So, I mean, my family was really rough. And when you go through something like that, it's a rough situation. You don't always understand. And also, I was very poor. No, I'm good right now.
I've got another one. Just keep talking.
And yeah, he's gonna get some more of this good beer. So when you get used to when you go into the military, in a lot of ways, the military will make you or break you. Either you're gonna be doing you're gonna get drinking and stuff and get in trouble, or it's gonna set you on a path that really helps you out and is really good. And even though I had some issues with the military, it put me on a good path and got me straight. And it also taught me a lot about the world. So, and it's also got me out of my abusive my abusive family, which was probably the biggest thing at the time. So, and then you also get this a chance to see the world. So a lot of times, you have Americans, they talk about freedom and how everyone's free and that's a right. But most of the world doesn't have that. Most of the world is in some pretty crappy, shitty situations. And you go to a third world country and you see just the poverty. You see how people are treated, and you see it really wakes you up to what we have in the U.S. And that freedom is really paid for by soldiers who are standing up for our rights and our freedoms. And it's not, I don't think, something that's free. I think it's something that you fight to keep and you earn. And if you forget that, then in the future you're going to lose it. And I mean, some of the stuff, I live overseas right now, and I see some of the stuff where all of a sudden people don't like America. America's not great. There are all these bad things. And it's like, do people even study history anymore? Do you have any idea what happened 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago? Do you know how people looked at the atrocities that were just day-to-day stuff in comparison to what we have now? We have so much, and all that people seem to focus on is all the stuff that we don't have, or how it's not perfect. It's up to us to improve it, to make the place better.
So let me ask you this, because there's some videos that have come out. Most of them are from the Air Force, but it's veterans against assault rifles, which there's no such thing as an assault rifle, but that's another topic. But one of the biggest anti-gunner proponents' points of view is American citizens with battlefield grade rifles, we'll call it, whatever
they're not fully automatic, and they're not semi-automatic.
With semi-automatic rifles, they are semi-automatic.
I mean, they're not like, you know, a three
round burst.
Burst. So when I'm thinking but semi-automatic is you just squeeze the trigger, which is really no different than any of the semi-automatic handguns, which you pull the trigger and it shoots a bullet. I mean, and then you can even make crossbows. There's this dude who made a crossbow, and he set up electric one of those electric screwdrivers. He just plugged it in. It shoots off fucking arrows super fast. I forget the guy's, but I do a lot of research for the story and for the series. So I bring in all these different old and new technology. Hell, even in China, I mean, we're talking about like 1000 BC. They had like these crossbows that you just were semi-automatic crossbows that held like 10 or 20 rounds.
Well, one of the big things I hear from anti-gun proponents, or, you know, is, you know, to counter, you know, the main stance of most pro 2A, you know, people is the basis of owning a comparable to military grade rifle is if one day it truly becomes necessary to oppose tyranny. And their comment is well, if you're not going to get anywhere because the government has tanks and drones and fighter jets.
If the government has to go to war against its own civilization, their own citizens, then I think they've lost. I think that you won't trust the government anymore. I think there was a lot of anger and from our civil war that we had. There is even, you know, in the South, and most people in the South weren't slave owners. That had nothing to do with that. They just didn't like, I think, the North coming and telling them what to do. And slavery was on the way out anyways, because it wasn't economically viable with the new machines and stuff coming around. They weren't, and that was just a reason. I don't even think when you go into, if I remember correctly, it was really about more the political side. They just used that as one of the different things they were going against. But I mean, if you go to war against your own citizens, I mean, America's we're supposed to be a democratic republic. We're not supposed to be a socialist republic or whatever we'd call it. I don't understand the big change that's come over the U.S. I don't understand. I mean, it seems like you got a lot of people who've been given everything in their life. I mean, you see kids that are 30-year-olds living at home suing their parents because they're being forced to be moved out. They're being told to move out of their house, and that their parents aren't wanting to support them anymore. I mean, at the same time, it's hard to get a job. parents want to do a whole bunch of great stuff for their kids. I mean, my daughter's 23, and I'm still helping her, and I'm going to be helping her until she gets out of school. But the whole deal is, you're going to school to go get a job and live on your own.
Well, no, I mean, I kind of see also like
We
I
got off
don't.
the topic against about the guns, but yeah.
Like I said, we'll go to the weeds. I ain't worried about it. Like I get it. Like I don't think people should be denied access to health care just because they can't afford insurance.
Well, we're getting screwed with health care. I mean, even
Oh, yeah.
The whole Obama, what was that?
Obamacare.
Yeah, Obamacare. They had to change it so people got their money. I mean, if we put it up to, I forget the gentleman's name. He's a Republican that he's always talking about having open markets for medic. If we had a competitive service, competitive services where they actually had to offer X-rays or different things at a price, that the price would automatically drop due to competition. But the prices are being artificially held high because of the insurance companies and how everything's paid.
Oh yeah, and the insurance companies dictate. Oh no, we're only going to pay X amount for this service.
And now, if you go in on your own, you don't have a prearranged deal, and
You're going to get fucked horribly.
I mean, I was super poor. We had to go get medical. I had to go, help a girlfriend had kidney stones, or I had a medical issue. And you always had to pay it out of the pocket, and they'd always try to give you all these extra tests and stuff. And maybe there's a reason why you had to have the test, but if you're poor and you're broke and you're just barely getting by, and now they're going to try to juice you for that money. And I never got any kind of welfare, any kind of assistance. It's like, wow, you can only report $5,000 a year when you're a waiter. If you did that, I still couldn't get any kind of financial aid or any kind of college aid or anything.
But no, like I said, I get certain social programs. The problem is the bureaucracies always get corrupted.
Yeah.
And the problem with the insurance companies is I get that there's.
So how do you get something that's affordable for people? How do you make it competitive? How do you get the prices down? Like laser eye surgery, it used to be $40,000 for laser eye surgery, but once it became the public domain and people could offer whatever they wanted, now it's like $5,000. Is that the same? What would happen? The same thing for all the medical stuff, whether it was X-rays or getting whatever you need to have worked on, with all the prices automatically come down? Why are they so high? It's kind of like college.
Yeah.
Before, college used to be really inexpensive, but the government guaranteed that you would cover your college bills, and all of a sudden the universities started yanking their prices really high.
It's because they bloated themselves through bureaucracy, and they have to pay that.
They know they're going to
get that money.
They're going to get the money because students will get that from the government, and they know that money has to be paid back. It's like almost like a modern day slavery.
It's an indentured servitude. It really is. And the horrible part is
you cannot get rid of that college debt.
Well, we have a societal issue that's cropped up when it comes to college, and all of our parents, yours and mine, and even even the younger generation who are now going into college, all their parents have always told them is, if you want to make a good living, you have to go to college.
Yeah, no one wants a blue collar. Like if you actually have to work and get your hands dirty, that's less of a job. If you're a garbage guy, or if you're doing sewers and
yeah,
but it's great money. But no one should be doing that because it's dirty work, and somehow we look down on people because they're doing jobs that. I mean, getting rid of waste, keeping things clean, having your sewage working probably does more to save lives than a doctor ever did. I mean, just that's your standard of living.
Well, medical mishaps that could be avoided kill more people than guns do in this country every year. I mean, there's so many issues, but like with the college, it's, that there's bloated bureaucracies. The school system, public school system in almost every state's fucked because of the bureaucracy.
Well, I just heard recently there was this guy, principal, who got in trouble for saying that the Holocaust was something that if you wanted to believe it, you could, but they don't discuss it because it's not actual history. Well, my wife's father was actually we speak German in my house, so we live in Germany. But my wife is Polish, and her father was in Auschwitz. Going to Auschwitz is a huge eye opener. I mean, just to seeing the horrors that can happen to people if you don't know the past and you repeat it, and they don't. Now it's like an optional thing to learn. It's like we don't really know if the Holocaust really occurred. Yeah, it did.
Yeah, we do.
And the funny thing is, as an American, I only heard it mostly as a Jewish thing. But they don't focus on all the other people. I mean, 5 million Jews, I think, were in. You hear about it when you're going through Auschwitz. But
Afro Americans,
it's like
homosexuals,
20 to 20 million Polish people and Romanians.
the Poles,
Yeah.
the Romanians.
They were just trying to wipe out the country, but they just at the same time, the Germans wanted to use their prisoners to the best of their ability before they killed them. Now, later on, the Russians when the Russians invaded, they just killed people. They didn't do it that way, and they didn't keep records. But it wasn't like
Oh, the Russians were brutal.
yeah, but no one focused on that because they was too focused on the Germans. Now the Germans get a bad rap as a culture. I think they're still scarred from their past.
Oh, they're
history.
absolutely scarred.
Yeah, and even now you hear people put Germans down for it, but you know what?
Well,
They're just people now. There was the Milgram experiment, which I was so proud. I could actually work in the Milgram experiment and the Stanford
people
experiment.
will do as they're told by someone they accept has authority.
Yep, and no one wanted to hear that, but it's the truth.
Well, you got to. My family has an interesting history with World War One and my great grandfather. My grandfather's father immigrated from Germany to the United States after World War One.
Wow.
Into the United States as a bricklayer. Could read it. It says on his LSI paperwork, can read and write. Which, that used to be one of the things they asked you when you immigrated in this country. Can you read English? Can you write English? And his father, that side of the family, the Tombergs, are Jews. So after World War One, my grandfather's father immigrated to the United States, got married, had kids. My grandfather, German Jewish ancestry, World War II, captain or lieutenant at the time, I think, was at D-Day on the Normandy Beach invasion under Eisenhower.
I mean,
I believe it was Eisenhower. My dad will correct me.
Call of Duty came out with a D-Day version. I don't know if you ever played that. I played that on like the hardest level. Man, I can't even imagine.
But think about it. I mean, they do stories like Glory, Inglorious Bastard. But imagine going to war as a young man, as an officer in the U.S. military, to fight the Nazi Germans as a Jew as well.
Do they know? I forget my history.
Roosevelt.
Sometimes.
My grandfather served under Roosevelt.
Did they know everything that was going in the? I didn't think they knew about all the concentration
No,
camps.
the American GIs did not know about what was going on in the concentration camp. But I mean, my grandfather was there. He had his Normandy and his D-Day invasion, award for that. Purple Hearts, Bronze Stars.
Respect.
He was one of the fortunate ones to a point of degree that his landing boat actually got pushed to the wrong side of the channel. So he got stuck sitting, watching all this happening.
Wow.
As a first waiver.
I mean, like I said, I mean, the only thing I can even compare that with as a game was.
And he had occupation.
Frightfully realistic.
But he had occupation of France and occupation of Germany accommodation medals.
They used to have that movie World at War, and they had the actual live footage and stuff, and you'd see the boats letting people out, and most of everyone just getting mowed down. How they ever did that, I don't know how they managed to do the invasion to this day. I mean, the bravery and just fighting against the tyranny of Germany at that time. I mean, unfortunately though, I mean, I see a lot of that stuff going on in today's day and age. Because you have the same thing going on with the Muslim community and what they're doing in Africa and stuff, but it's like we don't want to address the issue, because if we addressed it in the world, we'd have to really look at it. It would be looking at religion that's doing, not that all Muslims do it, but there's a lot of it. But in general, the religion is pretty hardcore, and they do promote violence. And also, there's a lot of people being forcibly either killed or forcibly converted or taken as slaves because that's allowed to do in the religion. But we don't talk about all the deaths that are occurring because no one wants to, I think, address it.
Well, I mean, it's a sad thing. Like, there are people who are Muslim who are very, very good people.
Yeah, I met some good people. I mean,
the problem is the corruption that's occurred in
the religion,
Sharia Muslim countries, where education's not promoted.
And also there's a thing of the concept of law. The concept of the law is a really interesting point. you have a difference if you're dividing the law. I mean, religion and actual law. Here's a law. Egyptian came up with the whole. They actually had a god called Law. Ma'at was the god's name, and it was the idea of a law that people would follow certain rules of behavior and do stuff. And then we did later on. We divided up the church and religion, and I think that's helped humanity in a lot of ways, just because so many times, how many wars were created because of religious perspectives. If you talk about the Crusades or throughout human history.
Oh yeah, religions have unfortunately always done horrible things in the name of their gods.
But they've also done good things. Like, how if you don't have religion, how do you have common decency? How do you build a whole concept of common decency and treating your brother right? I mean, we don't have something that's taken that place. It seems like a common decency is not so common anymore. And is that because we've gone away from religion? Does religion help put us in a good place to treat people right? I mean, if you don't have religion telling you to treat your brother a certain way, then how do you do it? How do you bring people up in a way to have mutual respect and common courtesy?
Religion, and this is my personal
opinion.
opinion.
I don't know. It's just something I just recently had brought
religion
up.
is a great way to instill a set of morals and values in people who either do not have the time or ability to become educated and learn. Like, if you're a farmer back in the 1800s, 1700s,
you're just trying to survive.
You're busy.
You can't do anything else.
You're busy working. You don't really have a lot of time for school. You learn, basic math. If you're lucky, you learn basic.
1800s. That's not that long ago either.
No, it's not that long ago. But you go back into these times, and it farming, logging, all this shit is backbreaking work.
You have no time. Like, you have real issues. You have real issues with medical. It's like I actually try to bring that up a lot of times in the book. I don't know if where I talk about people think that we need to go back to the good old days. I'm like,
they're not that good.
To no kind of to having garbage and waste, human waste everywhere, and just having disease and everywhere, and not having medical, having food, not even having access to food and starving to death. You had to work so hard just to live.
Yes.
We're so fortunate to be where we're at now, and you see people taking all these things that we have for granted. I mean, it's a small shift, and all of a sudden you don't have enough food. When socialism took over Russia and Ukraine, they didn't have the transportation, anything set up. A lot of the people who knew how to farm were slaughtered, and then you didn't have people producing food. I mean, people were eating each other. People died in the millions, and you don't hear about that.
But and when you're in those horrible, like, how do you instill without education, so you don't know how
the
religion fills that void. It gives you a set of rules to live by. These are the rules. I'm telling you, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to behave.
Have honor, treat people the golden rule.
Whatever the religion may be, it sets up it is a foundation for society to operate.
Okay. For a society to operate and function with one another.
And you don't have the time in that kind of a condition, unless you are one of the rare intellectuals, regardless of what you're doing, time to ponder this. Did I get all the rocks out of this land that I tilled so all my crops will grow, so I have maybe something I can put away to get through the winter?
Yep.
Did I hunt enough meat, or do I need to go out another day and kill another boar or another deer that I can have enough meat to get through the lean times?
Yeah, or squirrel or rabbits or whatever now, you could get.
And with that, how do I keep this village operating? Well, if I have a religion and I say, you give a little to the church and the church will hand it out to those who are to keep them alive, because we need these bodies to keep producing, you now have and that's the thing. Like, and religion does do good things. If you haven't had the time to ponder certain things, religion's good for dealing with those unexpected things, because it's already set a set of rules on how to work with it.
Like any organization, it could become corrupt too.
Absolutely. but and like one of the
Unfortunately.
where religion does do good is dealing with death and the loss of a loved one. Like that's not something most people, if they're honest, contemplate. Like, what does it mean when my loved one, regardless of who it is, dies? What's that mean to me?
But wait, in the 1800s, you'd have so many children dying that you didn't even. Sometimes they didn't name them until what, like a year later.
A year, 2, 3 years,
yeah,
whatever.
until they start actually survive, because the death with children was so common, because just basic hygiene was so bad and disease was rampant. I mean, we just don't. A lot of people just don't realize what they have, and then So I mean, I think that's a good point. And then now we're in a modern society, and you see so many people just take whatever they want. If I don't have my new sneakers, if I don't have my new iPhone, man, I need to kill someone to get it.
Well, it comes down to like, so we have access to massive education.
Yes. And unfortunately, being smart is still.
I wouldn't say necessarily.
Or being educated is still being. Well, I mean, come on. When I was in school, I was a nerd. So.
Oh, so was I. But
I was a nerd before it was cool to be a nerd. I just want to point that out.
But it's one of those things where you're educated, so you have some knowledge to question things.
I only do the one beer because I got a lot of Indian blood in me. So I mean.
But you have the knowledge. My point is, you have the knowledge to question things, but you may not have sufficient education to question, dissect, interpret, and understand the full implication of concepts and ideas. So you don't get into studying philosophy deeply enough to understand why certain ethics should be.
You just learn the basics. Well, I thought when you went to college, you were supposed to have alternating ideas and you have different discussions. Now, if someone doesn't agree with you, it's like, oh, you're a Nazi. Wait, because I don't agree with you and I have a different perspective? Yeah, you're a Nazi. I can punch you in the face. Wait. Where did the whole discussion come from? Where did the whole different ideas
Don't get me wrong.
from?
If you're wearing a swastika, on an armband and saying "Hail Hitler," I got no problem with someone punching you in the face.
I mean, you gotta really be promoting violence, and if you're,
I don't care if you're promoting. If you were truly out there going "Hail Hitler" and you're serious about it, I got zero problem with someone coming up and whooping your ass.
But if someone's saying something that you don't like or you think it goes against what you believe, that doesn't mean. I mean, really.
No, I'm gonna tell you what a fucking idiot I think you are. And
what were they called? Well, that's I can't remember the word. Italy, when they were. I'm trying to think of the term that's used. When you're just following everyone, you can only think one way and only one way. I forgot.
Oh, you mean the fascists?
Yeah, fascists. I mean, if you can't have a discussion with someone and talk, and it's either your way or the highway. I mean, basically, you're a fascist. I mean, you're supposed having discourse and being able to come together as Americans and find a better way can only be done by discourse and discussion. And it's not always stuff that you like. And sometimes you need to be educated. And if you just are listening to what people are telling you to believe and you're not researching it yourself and making sure that you know that topic inside and out, and that might mean getting outside of your bubble, because it seems to be that YouTube and stuff puts you in this bubble so you hear all the same stuff that you want to hear. But just know both sides of the argument, be able to understand the different perspectives and why the people think that way, and then make an educated decision based on what you really feel and trying to understand both sides of the equation. I thought that's what the U.S. with America was founded on: different people coming together, not one tribe of people and against another tribe. It was all of us coming together as one people and bringing the best of what we representative and bringing that together to make America what it is. I mean, that's what I thought it was. But nowadays, like, when you talk about, there just seems to be a lot of people it's just what can I get? It's not about how we can help each other out and stuff.
Oh, and along those same lines, like, an interesting thing is there's a lot of people, and it's weird to me. Like, it's this weird dissociation when it comes to what most people call the left and the right, that there's this disassociation that I don't get. And it really kind of weirds me out.
You make them less human. That's one way of making it.
Well, one of the things is, like, on the left is we don't want anyone to have guns, but the police are bad. But you got to trust the police. It's like that weird disassociation. The police are killing black people. They're bad. They're horrible. We can't trust the police, but you don't need to have a gun to protect yourself. You should rely on the people we say are bad and killing people. Like, that disassociation I don't get. But then on the other side, where I don't get is we need guns because government can be corrupt, and we need to be able to protect ourselves, which I agree with. But
I do too.
but trust the police that they're not bad. No, no, no. I think all government's corrupt and bad. That's why we all need to have guns. I don't trust them. Period. End of story. Are there good cops? Absolutely. But there's also bad cops.
Well, one bad cop
Spoils the whole fucking bunch.
and it's unfortunate because, and also there's a certain mentality. I think a lot of times to be a police officer, it's not an easy job.
No, it's not.
And one mistake.
Oh, and that's the other end
And
of
it's
it.
not like you got communities are great are happy for the police officers either. And then why don't we are talking about what is it when you're supposed to arrest a certain amount of people a month? What is that?
You're talking about quotas when it comes to tickets.
Why aren't we talking about quotas? We should never have a quota. I mean, where is the national discussion on quotas for arresting a certain amount of people a month or a certain amount of tickets a month? How about just managing the freaking people who are breaking the law? Where the quotas come from? We need to. That's one thing I have never. It's a humongous.
Well, because all the
thing.
departments say the same thing. There is no quota. But here, I'll give you the back to my point real quick.
Why
Sorry.
do we talk to police officers who talk about quotas and how they have to fill the quotas all the time?
Yeah, but
and they have to go to poor neighborhoods to find people.
But the
they can fill
department
quotas
the
with.
department says it doesn't happen, so it doesn't matter what.
Yeah, because we have we have private
Yeah.
jails. I mean, and now people are making money by incarceration.
Yeah. Oh, and there was a judge who went to jail for that. They found.
Yeah. Oh, let's not talk about that.
But no, but because I don't want people to think I'm one-sided. I want to get fully out. Is the people on the right are pro Second Amendment. We have to be prepared to deal with corrupt government because it's happening. It does happen. But then when there's any corruption, when there's any call for concern of corruption, it's if he's on my side or they're the cops. They're in denial. First problem is and because I'm now on this topic.
Well, how can anyone be on the far left or the far right? I mean, why aren't you in the middle? Why don't you choose the things that sound good? There's a lot of things I'd like to do, but before we can help somebody else, we got to make sure our own house is together, right?
It's hard to be in the middle because there's certain ideologies or things that people feel are mutually exclusive. And then there's others that are truly mutually exclusive, in my opinion. Like, if you think you need to own a firearm in case the government gets corrupt, then I honestly believe you should, yes, you get the benefit of the doubt, but when it gets to a certain point, no more. You lose the benefit of the doubt. The problem that happens, with law enforcement where they have this issue where you get the thing like the formation of the thin blue line is good cops have something bad happen, unfortunate event, and people want to, lynch them and not accept that it was an honest mistake or it was done in good faith. So what happens is all of those law enforcement officers come around and it becomes a us versus them mentality, and that insulates and protects the bad cops because they don't want any dirt to come to light because they don't want the lynch mob.
You got communities backing people who are robbing people, and you got people,
and that's the other end.
You got people making comments. Well, how else am I going to get my new shoes and my new phone? And so no one even says, what the fuck are you talking about?
Do you want water or something? Sorry.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean,
let me grab it.
Oh, here's something real quick. I was reading in that shooting place.
Yeah.
The article, the Second Amendment for the Bill of Rights, and they were talking about a well-regulated military being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I mean, because throughout time, that's repeatedly happened again and again. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. That was actually in the bathroom. They had that up above the toilet. I had to take a picture of it. It was pretty, but I still think it was pretty deep. I mean, it's just, there is a reason that shit like that happens throughout time, and having the right to bear arms means something. Okay, he had to take care of some business real quick.
Sorry about that. You get the Darth Vader cup.
Hey. Well, I'm supposed to be on the dark side in the game.
Hey, I like a good anti-hero myself.
Yeah, I mean, so many people want to do that anyways. They want to just pitch you as, if you're not part of the popular people, if you're not part of the, if you're doing something like if you're playing the dark side, that must mean you're evil, right? So I'm playing that up in the series a lot. I'm also trying to bring a lot of different things into the series about, like, Star's a 20-year-old guy. He's in this 24, and when did it come out to the point that finding people attractive became a crime?
Oh, again, that's why I go back to
I mean, you're in his head. What he does inside his head is what he does inside his head. I can think, and men and women both find whoever is attractive in their head.
Well, that's why I go back
Unless
to that
if you're
whole.
asexual.
Well, that's why I go back to the whole thing of people being upset about the centaur. It's like that's no different. It's a intelligent,
Which is another
thinking,
intelligent being.
consenting adult.
Just happens to look somewhat like a horse.
Correct. So because of that, you're gonna. Well, guess what? I got some bad news for people that are upset about that. There are people who actually like role playing as centaurs.
There's some good pictures out there. Some of the. I mean,
yeah. So are they wrong for having that with other consenting adults? I don't think so.
I don't know. People. I mean, there's so much anime out. There's so many monster girls out. I mean, I didn't think of it as well. And again, most of that comes from the people who were trying to get me. So first, I was told I was plagiarizing and I was bad. And then when everyone disproved that, then I was told that I didn't know how to game and I didn't know how to write and I'm a terrible writer. And then when no one seemed to care about that, all of a sudden they had heard that an author got pulled off of Amazon for inappropriate erotica. Then all of a sudden all the bestiality stuff came out. And then they was because I had gnomes in the story, somehow that matches up to pedophilism. I'm like, what the hell? It's just reaching for anything to get my books pulled. And they really, and then because I was told directly about them, because I stood up to them, I was definitely a target. So it's okay. I'm used to standing up to bullies. Done it all my life.
Guess what? You can get punched in the fucking face too.
Well, that's what basically I did. I mean, I punched him right back in the face, and I keep on doing my stuff. And the books are selling. So every time I release a new book, I'm just like, how do you like that now? I mean, as you can follow my reviews, you can you can do my audiobooks, my ebooks, you can bash me online, but while you're doing that, I'm just writing the next book and getting it out. So,
well, what's the old saying? Is people attack things because they don't want to be creative and they don't want to think. Like, if you're afraid of competition, it's because you know you're not that good.
I mean, I try to help people. I have a blog, thecheekyfellow.com, www.thecheekyfellow.com, and it's about just helping other writers understand how to, produce a book. When I first went to produce a book, they didn't warn you about all the different things that you could waste your money on. And I try to just tell everything up front. Here's the pros and cons. Here's what you're going to be asked, and here's what you're going to go through. And maybe these guys, maybe all the attacks actually helped me. Maybe it's the way all the controversy brought me to the attention of a whole bunch of fans, and that's why I'm doing so good. I mean, I actually, in many ways, I have to say thank you guys for being such dicks, because without that, I probably wouldn't be doing as good as I'm doing now. Because people read the series, loved it, and now I'm motivated to write.
They wanted to see what the controversy was about.
And then they found out that I was actually writing a good story and that their bullshit wasn't right, and we just moved on. I got more fans, and thank you very much. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and they try to be. They you would have thought by now they would have just like sidestepped, but because I stood up to them, I dared to stand up to the bullies. They got to beat me down somehow. They still do it. Hit every book. They do the same negative review sometimes on multiple accounts. So yeah, fuck them. I'm still gonna write.
God forbid you love something different.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think a lot of these people aren't gamers. So, I mean, there was one of the guys was talking about how he's all of his gaming days as being a Pong player, an arcade player. And I'm like, that's not gaming, dude.
No, that's being an arcadist.
Yeah, that's not living an MMO and being part of that world. Which a lot of, like, current WoW, which a lot of people were surprised Classic WoW is doing so good. But in Classic WoW, you had to befriend people. You had to go do the quests in the world and explore the world and find the dungeons before you could even get inside them. You had to live it. And that is a whole different thing than just clicking join the next game.
Well, that's why I fell in love with Eve. Is literally
Hardcore player right there. Eve, guys, by the way, that's some serious gameplay. Well,
like-
it was some serious gameplay.
Oh, it's still some serious gaming, but yeah, it definitely has gone to a little bit softer. But what I loved about Eve was literally, no matter how hard you tried, unless at some point you were forced to interact with another human being, no matter what, whether it's as a trader, you got to buy something from a real person. You got to sell it to a real person. Even if it's just buying your ship. Like, you could theoretically NPC trade, but guess what? At some point, there's a player who's going to try to kill you. Within the rule set, one way or another, whether it's going to kill them too, there's suicide gankers, there's all kinds of ways you can try to avoid it, but at some point, someone is going to force interaction upon you, and most actions have an interaction, even if it's not a direct, even if it's through a market or through a trade. There's everything in that game is interactions with another player in one form or another, and it can't be avoided.
Some of the most amazing stories I've ever read about gaming come from Eve and the different guilds on guild action, and I mean, really, that's a huge aspect of Eve.
Oh, and the great thing about it as well, on top of it, is the most. It's the only game that I can think of that an equal part of the gaming is meta outside of being inside the actual game. Your conversations with other, members of your corporation or alliance are on a TeamSpeak server or a Mumble server. It's not in the game itself, has nothing to do with the game, but it's about the game. And it
now, did you always have that? Did you always have the TeamSpeak server? Did that come later on? Like when you first started Eve, I don't think you were on a TeamSpeak server. I bet you were just playing, and later on they got a TeamSpeak server.
When I first started playing Eve, I was using the local chat channels.
Okay, you were. Wait, as in just text?
In-game, just text.
Yeah.
And then as you learn about the game, you find out these different groups. As you join a group, now once you're in a corporation or dealing people, they invite you into their TeamSpeak server. You jump in. If you know someone, you start off right in a TeamSpeak. But
the reason why I bring that up is when we were playing World of Warcraft, you just played with people. You guys it was all through a text-based chat. And then later, it wasn't until later on that TeamSpeak servers started really coming up, and you started actually, your guild would set up a TeamSpeak server, and all of a sudden, the person you've been playing with, the team you've been playing with for the last 5 years is one's an old lady, one's a young kid, and there's different, and the one's some guy from, another country, and one's from, you never thought about it. It wasn't, and after you find out that it was an old granny that was your backup healer, you didn't care because they were a great player and you just all connected with the same thing. There was no prejudice. There was no.
And that badass tank was a 14-year-old girl whose dad let her have an accountant, would play with her, and he was the rogue.
Yeah.
And you were like, whoa, wait, this badass tank who could hit the rotations is this 14-year-old little girl? Like, that's fucking badass.
And and that's what I love about game. Everyone was equal. You were on equal footing, which is what I tried to do my best in the world to bring in. Where you could
as long as you were good. If you were trash, you were trash. It didn't matter who or what you were.
Yeah, they would rip you up. And that's what I like about the game so much. It didn't matter. All this other stuff, gamers didn't care about that.
Age, sex, none of it mattered.
Yeah, you could play, you play. If you couldn't play, you were shit then.
Except for when politics got involved and a girl who sounded sexy would use that to manipulate people.
That was, we never. Because if you sucked playing, they didn't want you on the team.
No, but you didn't. If you were decent.
Yeah.
Or if you were competent. You may not be, this is the only part that's
competent.
If you were competent and halfway decent, and you were a female who sounded extremely attractive, you could parlay that into being put in a position higher than your actual skill level.
Yeah, I mean, I was a guild leader for Black Rook Hold, and my girlfriend was. We were both the guild leader at the time, Julia, until we broke up and everything kind of imploded. But yeah, I don't know. We were always. You had to play good. You had to have a good personality, and you had to.
I'm not saying that always happened, but you know what I'm talking about. It does.
It always. I mean, a sexy voice is nice. I mean, but you got. You really had to come. You had to bring something to the table.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not saying these, people did not bring something to the table. I'm just saying they could parlay that into something. If they were playing a rogue, I'll just say a rogue character, and it was another, and it was a parlay for a spot against another rogue character. If she may not be as skilled as him,
but she has a good voice.
She has a good voice. She's getting the raid spot as long if there's only a minor skill difference. Now, if she sucks, it's a different story. But if there's only a minor skill difference, she'll get put above the slightly higher skilled player.
It's the way of the world.
Because she's,
Guys, unfortunately, get second place in those things.
Yes.
So it's just the truth. Women are gonna have a better option for most of those things. Because most video games are guys, and World of Warcraft was the first game that you had so many women playing.
Oh yeah.
And gaming became popular. Before then, you were all kind of nerds, and everyone laughed at you. But all of a sudden, World of Warcraft brought gaming to the limelight, and everyone was playing.
So I'm gonna really focus in for time. So my ex-wife, I actually met in World of Warcraft.
I understand that.
She was in my guild.
I met Julia in Descent, so I can understand that.
And that's
pretty hot, by the way. I mean, gaming girls are hot.
The only problem was when I left World of Warcraft to go play Eve, and she was still playing World of Warcraft.
Yeah,
that kind of.
That's what Julia basically did. I call her Julia because she's out in the story. We don't need to have any real names here, but she did the same thing. I wouldn't play a warrior class because she was always a healer, and I went to play a mage and some other stuff. And then a month later, hey, I'm gonna move in with so and so. I'll be back. I'll be back in a month. You don't mind, do you? Well, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, but not with me.
Yeah.
She got so angry about that. I'm not doing something wrong. I'm screwing around on you. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just not right for me. Do what you want. Doesn't mean I gotta be a part of that. Because it's not about. You don't own anybody. It's just you guys go your separate ways then. But some people will make it all about, a lot of people think they own you. Men and women both do that. So I get a lot. All of a sudden, I never realized I was getting hit so much. I don't know. Sometimes it's the group of writers who hit me. I forgot what the word is when you're a woman hater or something. Misogynistic. I forget the name all the time, but. I never been called that in my life, So in Florida, you hug everybody. It's a regular thing to hug somebody. Men and women. I mean, we don't do the European kissing thing. I still don't quite get into that, but the hugging thing is a very Florida thing. And then in the series, no matter if stars check out someone's tight leather clad ass or big breasts, because. Gaming was always about looking hot. You didn't have ugly characters in games for the most part.
Unless your charisma was too.
Yeah, but everyone was basically smoking for whatever creature they were. They made them as hot and sexy as they could, which is another gaming aspect, and is why in the storyline everyone's so pretty so pretty because it's a game, and that's how people always identify with their character and make them look the best they can. Now, you can have whatever thoughts you want, and there's nothing wrong with that. When it become a bad thing, that's how you treat people. He's always treated the women. They're in equal levels of power. They're in equal levels of players. They have equal strengths. He's never disrespected anyone like that. But in his head, you're at that. He does notice.
Yeah, well, you say that, I laugh. It just made me. There was a Twitter post. Her post. She said she was in a gender-neutral bathroom.
I like this post a lot, by the way. I loved it.
She was done using the facility. She was washing her hands. 2 different men came in. One man proceeded to use the restroom. The other one went and waited outside. She felt violated by the man who went and used the facilities. And my favorite, that's one is the repost of both men treated you with respect. One treated you like an equal and said, "This is a gender neutral bathroom. We're all going to use it. I respect you as a human being. I got to go to the bathroom. You got to go to the bathroom. We're going to the bathroom."
Yep.
And the other one treated her as a woman and said, "You're in the bathroom. I'm going to wait outside till you're done." But both treated her with respect and dignity. She should have technically been more upset
At
the guy who tried it out as a woman.
Yep. But that's not the case in most situations.
No.
Because it's whatever is convenient at the
Correct.
time.
Oh, it's what gives people, not most people. At the end of the day, I believe all people just want to be treated with courtesy, decency, and respect.
I had one time a lady get mad at me because I held open the door for her and she started bitching me out. And I looked at her and I said, "I don't really care what sex you are. I only held open the door because
You were right
your
behind me.
your arms were full and you were behind me. But if you're gonna be an ass about it, I just dropped the door in their face. I didn't care. I mean, I'm actually not a gentleman. I'm polite to people, and I'll be polite to say I'm polite to men or women. But people sometimes take it the wrong way, and it's like, no, there was no other intention. I don't really care what you are. I actually, when I was dating, I really wanted a woman. I wanted to meet a woman who would treat me right. I wanted to meet someone who would want to go out with me and would pay for some of the meals and do what they could, and I would do the same thing. And I'd go out so many times, and no one would ever crack a wallet. And it's like, by the third date, I'd break up with them. I would not break up with them. I'd just end it. And they're like, I had my girlfriends telling me, "Well, you can't do that. You're a man. You're supposed to pay." I'm like, listen, we're people going out together. None of us are rich. So either my going out with me and who I am is as attracted to you as you're attracted to me, that you're willing to do what you can within your means to take me out, or you're not. I'm not going to have a discussion with you. Either you treat me right or you're on the curve.
Matthew Hussey put it, who's a motivational speaker, writer, relationship advisor. He put it great. A woman asked him about going out on dates with a man who should pay. And his response was perfect, in my opinion. If you're just dating initially, especially initially, when it comes to the bill, if a man doesn't pay, he wasn't raised right. If the woman doesn't offer to pay, she wasn't raised right.
Because, I mean, you hear all these people joke about how they go out on dates just so they can
get free meals.
Yeah, get free meals. And they think that's funny and like, oh, that's cool and it's acceptable. And no one's bashing them for that kind of behavior either, because why? They're just using guys. What's the problem with that? And I'm like, I mean, my wife, when she came down she came down to visit me in the U.S. and she didn't have a lot of money, but she paid on her own. I actually brought her down. I didn't mind her being down for a month. I was checking to see how she was. Did she respect me as an individual and stuff? And she did. I'd pay one time we'd go to the grocery store and she'd pay the next because it was the right thing to do. And she always did what she could and she thought about me. And that's actually why I married her. Otherwise, first time I got married. Otherwise, I would have been MGTOW, I guess.
I like Matthew Hussey has a lot of great insights. So he sat here and said, it's not about going 50-50.
Matthew Hussey?
Yeah, Matthew Hussey. Sorry, Matthew.
He sounds very familiar. I think
he's on YouTube, or Facebook and YouTube, all over the place. But he goes, once you're in a relationship with someone, it's a partnership. That doesn't mean a 50-50 partnership. It's proportional.
Yeah.
Everything's proportional.
Are you together for love, or are you together for a business option? Am I feeling a role in your life where any Tom, Dick, and Harry could be in that position, or are we in a relationship together?
Well,
I'm just asking.
Like he talks about,
there's a difference.
If you're going on vacation, if I make $100,000 a year and she makes $50,000 a year, if I insist on us staying in a very expensive hotel because I can afford it, I shouldn't expect her to pay half the bill.
Nope.
If we agree on the accommodations, even if it's less than what I would possibly prefer, it should still be proportional. That's what friends do. If it's where she wants to stay, then it's 50-50 because it's her, it's by choice and accommodation. And
well, if you were dating, I always thought that you would some people have more money.
I'm not even talking about dating. I'm talking about in a relationship with
If
someone.
you're married,
not even married. If you're in a relationship, it's proportional
to what you can do.
Correct.
You should both be putting money into it.
Correct.
To what you can
money,
afford.
time,
Because that's what it's about. Working and time.
If and that's what it comes down to is, as he says, would you act that way with your best friend? And if the answer is no, then you're not doing right by your partner.
No, I'm not sticking my dick in my best friend either.
Well,
it
no, you really are.
Actually, I am because
your wife and partner really
my
do.
wife is actually, she's
that's
also amazing. And I said that off the cuff, but honestly, I mean, I wouldn't have married her if she wasn't that good. I mean, just cool. I mean, I trust her with my life. And if I had to split my money and stuff, then it would be a business relationship, and I probably would never get married.
And that's the thing, like.
I definitely wouldn't get married ever.
I mean, this is the person you spend the most time with outside of work. If you work with other people.
Yeah. No, yeah. So, yeah, she actually is. I mean.
And that's the thing, like, that people have that fucked up mindset. Like, if you're getting involved with someone, you should treat them as one of your best friends.
Yep.
Would you do that to your best friend? And if you would, you're a piece of shit, regardless of your sex.
If you're not, if you're taking your friends out to eat, but you're not taking your lover out to eat, and you're not opening your wallet for your lover, and there's this whole idea of, well, I shouldn't pay for anything until we're married. I'm just not down for that, and that's not, and I don't think that's not really respecting the person you're with in any way. It's if you want to be treated equally and properly, but again, a lot of times I feel like there's so many people who are out just to get. To get what they can. I'm gonna get what I can. If something better comes along, see ya. I mean, I'm not really with you because I love you. I'm with it because it's convenient. What can you do for me?
I mean, I'm in a weird situation now. Like, I'm dating.
That's weird.
Yes. Well, because of the way I do it.
Dating is always weird.
Because nowadays, when people date, if it gets past the second or third date, almost everyone jumps into monogamy. And that's just in Florida. That's the cultural thing.
Well, until you have the discussion, which I love it. People are, we've been dating for like 2 months. Have you had the discussion? No. Well, then you're not monogamous.
Well, and and here's the thing that throws a lot of women off that I talk to is I have the discussion up front and tell them we are dating. We are not monogamous.
Yeah, there's a difference.
And until we've dated 3, 4, whatever months it is, and you've gone out with other people while you're going out with me, we will not become monogamous. And there may be a point where I tell you, look, I care for you, I like you, I enjoy spending time with you, but I don't see us being forever. But I do want, if I'm seeing you that long, I do consider you someone I care about.
I do enjoy the time we're spending, but you're not marriage material.
Not that they're not marriage material. It's I don't see us being compatible that way.
That sounds like not marriage material.
No, because they.
Well, to you.
Not to. They are marriage material, just not with me.
That's okay. That's what I'm. Okay.
I want to. They are. If I spend that much time after 3 months and I'm still talking to someone, seeing someone on a regular or semi-regular basis, weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it may be.
It's called kissing friends, people. That's a term I brought to Europe that they never heard before. They're like, "What's kissing friends?" It's when you're just more than friends.
Well, there's different. I say dating because I do take these ladies, or right now, lady, out to dinner and meals and stuff like that. But because of the way she chooses to live with, there's nothing wrong. It's normal the way she versus the way I am, being a very introverted person who does not enjoy going out on the regular and socializing regularly.
And this is a guy with the podcast, but I understand that. I'm a writer and I'm an introvert too.
I mean, I don't mind socializing in a small group setting, but I don't want to go out to a barbecue and a party every weekend.
No, that's too many people.
But a lot of people like it. Most people enjoy that.
But that's extroverts who, I don't know, they get social approval? Is that
no,
what it is?
I don't know. Just some people, it's not even so. They just enjoy the company of large groups of people.
You need to be gamers. You need to have something in common with me. We need to be able to discuss things. Otherwise, I just really don't care, I guess.
Well, but someone who's like that is not going to work long term. But that doesn't mean I don't care about you. You're not a good friend. Yeah. You're not someone I want to keep in my life.
I had flags. I had black flags and red flags, which is if there was a black flag, I would never date. I would never marry you. It would never be a permanent relationship. So if you start yelling and screaming, if you just thought about a relationship with a business arrangement or something, or I had one lady tell me, she goes, "Well, we can date, but you need to buy a new car." I was like, "Heck, please." I'm like, I'm never gonna date that person. I mean, I'm never gonna date that person seriously with the intention of having a permanent relationship. We can have fun together. We can hang out as friends. We can hang out as more than friends.
Well, I'm gonna. I can have a permanent relationship with them, but it's not. Yes, I can have a friendship or something with more than that, but that's more intimate and involved.
But it's never gonna go.
But it's not gonna go to that level where I am solely with them. Yeah. Correct. And
I mean, I was very upfront about
that. I laugh when you say that the black flags. Like mine is women who want to change the clothes I wear. Specifically, they want to put me in skinny jeans.
Yep. You know what? I had a friend. He's actually, his wife died, and he's over there working for the Defense Logistics Agency, and I told him he'd be in skinny jeans when he started dating a European woman, and he's like, "No, never." And then she got him into skinny jeans, and it wasn't until he was on base and all the other women were hitting on him that he was like, "I'm really digging these skinny jeans." And then all of a sudden, it was cool. But until then, he's like, "I'm never going to be in skinny jeans and skinny jeans." But you know what? The ladies liked him.
That's fine. I don't care.
Because she got me some skinny-ass jeans.
This is me personally. I don't care how flattering or how good it might look. If I'm not comfortable, which I'm not.
They're nut huggers.
If I'm not comfortable in those clothes, I'm not going to be able to interact with people. I'm going to be shut down. I'm going to be withdrawn. And I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to be fucking miserable.
A lot of times I think it happens. My wife never made it an issue. I knew I needed help with the business clothing. But my personal clothing, really, serious beach bum. I didn't really care. So, and the button-down shirt, actually, I like it a lot. It works a lot for Florida, especially for when it's hot, and it fits my style. So she is aware of that, and it's cool. It's a small thing compared to everything else that I hated. I never had that as a list of things I hated. Mine was like, I had one lady tell me, she goes, "By the way, I just want to let you know, I'm just mostly monogamous." I'm like, "Oh."
What's mostly mean?
That's what I said. I'm like, "So we're only mostly not together." And she's like, "What, you breaking up with me for that?" I'm like, "Dude, we could have been friends and you could have been doing anything you want. But once we said we were going to be in a monogamous relationship and you decide to pull shenanigans, I don't want that in my life." So we broke up. I mean, she was attractive. She was nice. We used to go down to Air Force Beach all the time, play volleyball and stuff.
But like my thing is look, if you can find something that's close to a skinny jean that's not going to fucking grab my balls and grab my calves.
My wife brought me some like leggings. I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
I'm like, "No."
There's certain things like.
Yeah. No one should be trying to change you. They can offer you options, and you can try it if you want to, if you like it, and then it works. That's cool.
I mean, especially when you get to be, a bit older like us, and I say a bit older.
We're pretty set in our ways.
Not only set in, but we've learned a lot of what we do like and don't like.
Yeah.
And if it's something we've tried that we don't like, and if it was younger when it happened, we've probably tried it one more time, and if we still don't like it, we don't like it.
No.
Like a finger in the asshole, just not about it. And, I'm not,
That's a neither yes or no there, but I understand.
You don't have to tell what your preference is. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just.
But if you're at this age, you probably had a finger in your ass.
You've most definitely have had if you've hit our age, you've most definitely had a finger in your ass at a minimum at some point in your life.
I brought in.
Unless you've been married to the same woman your whole fucking life since high school.
And if you're happy, congrats.
And I actually know a couple like that.
Soccer and Yoon are actually high school sweethearts, and they're actually part of the people who are in the novel series. And they're high school sweethearts. He's a great guy. She's a great woman, and they've been together. It's one of the few times I've actually seen that work out, and they're just a great couple.
But that's the one exception. But if you've had,
she's pretty bossy. Though,
if you've had if you've had multiple partners. You've at some point had a woman decide that she's going to try something for you to see if you like it. And you're going to find out. And if you've
also introduced a few things to the ladies you've been
absolutely.
with.
And you know what?
You guys got to have some game.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. But once you know what you like, it ain't happening. If you're a chick, I don't care how hot you are. You're not pegging me. It's just not happening. There's guys out there that are about that.
The
Go
sad
find
part
them.
is, I have a visual thought process, and thank you for that.
You're welcome. Especially when they got the big 8-inch fucking.
I already saw it all. That flash. I wish I wasn't boring in that way, but I got a visual thought process. I see stuff all the time. I see fucked up people.
But, I mean, that's the reality. And if you, as a potential partner, cannot accept that, that's a black flag. I'm done.
Yeah, well, and I wasn't gonna. A lot of those things is, if you're in your late 30s, or your 30s, you're in your late 30s and your 40s, and you got people doing certain things, they're not gonna go too far from who they are. So, I mean, I'm not gonna even have a discussion. Do we need to have a discussion if you're still screwing around, or do we need to have a discussion if you won't open your wallet, or do we need to have a discussion if you don't help out? Like, I mean, I would be at the house, and I was cleaning up the house. It was Saturday. Saturday was normally my cleanup day, and I had a girlfriend ask, "Hey, can I come by?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." But I'm cleaning up the house, and we won't be to go out until I'm finished. Oh, no problem. So she came over, put her feet up on the couch, put the TV on, and while I'm cleaning everything up, and she's like, "Hey, you done yet?" "Nope, I'm getting there." All right, because I want to go out. I'm like, "Well, I told you,
Yeah.
Finished cleaning up the house. It took probably 2.5 hours, and we go out to the restaurant and we're eating, and she's like, "So, when are we going to take this relationship to the next level?" And I'm like,
Never.
Never. And the reason why
Is you just sat there and watched me clean and didn't help.
yeah, and the thing is, I want to go over to someone I love and really appreciate and caring about. That together time is what's important, whether it's cleaning, whether it's, I would have just chipped in, and so we could have got the work finished as quickly as possible.
So we
then
could
have
spend time together.
the fun together. And it is even, I don't need to have that discussion, because at this point in time, if I need to have that discussion and you're 40 something or you're 30 something, late 30s, yeah.
And FYI, if you don't like cleaning and you don't want to get in that position, when they say that, you go, "Okay, well, I've got some errands I got to run here at the house. Hit me up when you're done, and we'll get together then, so I can take care of the stuff I got to take care of. That way, you don't have to go and clean."
Yeah, well, and it's not. And it's just the thing is thinking about the person you're with. If that never crossed your mind, I don't really want that in my life as a relationship. I really want a relationship. I had a good friend once tell me, she's like, "I don't know how you could be in this long distance relationship." She goes, I couldn't do that," and she didn't really believe in love. It was more like she had this job position open in her life. She needed to be held at night. She needed to have sex when she wanted. She needed to have someone there helping her with the chores. And if you weren't there, then she had to find somebody else. I'm not in love with you. I just need someone in that position or something. My wife actually loves me. I actually was happy we actually had the long distance relationship, because I was like, well, if this doesn't work, then it wasn't meant to be.
It's weird that you bring it. So after my divorce, I was, like most guys, after a horrible relationship, closed off, very not interested in being vulnerable. And this young lady who I was interested in took an interest back in me. And I know, the relationship wasn't great and it was volatile at times.
That's kind of sometimes hot, but not so much as you get older.
But, it was, weird, contemplating and looking back on it, that I didn't do right by her because I wasn't in
the right place.
No, it wasn't that I cared for her. I liked her. I enjoyed her company. The problem was I wasn't in love with her at the time. I was in love with the way she made me feel and the way she treated me when she treated me amazing. Like, oh, wow, a woman will treat you this way. She'll do these things for you,
Yeah, the first time you have that, have someone treat you right.
And it was,
powerful.
I mean, she had her issues too, and
we all have baggage.
But that was the weird part is when things went really sideways and I had a choice, I, realized, oh, it's not just about the way she makes me feel. I actually do give a fuck about her, and said, and let the relationship end without a fight, and said, go do what you need to do to be healthy and be a better person, and, deal with your issues. And even after that, she was still there to supportive and talk to me while I was dealing with, my next major relationship and the one I told you about with the officer, and she was there and dealt with all that, and she'd tell me again, "You dumb fuck, haven't you realized you need to walk away from this yet?" And finally she did the right thing at one point. She said, "Finally, look, I'm telling you for the last time, walk away and stay away from her, or I'm not talking to you if you're going to continue to go back and do this."
Because you're just abusing yourself. And nothing's worth that.
And she stuck by it. She wouldn't talk to me when I like an idiot went back into it. And once I was over and past that and realized the error of my ways, she was willing to talk to me again, and I do talk to her still. So there was issues on her side that most people would say she did me wrong in certain ways, but at the same time, we may have used each other, and I hope she still cares for me the way I care for her, but that's the weird thing of both people being in a bad place with bad baggage at the time.
Trying to help each other. Well,
trying to help, not necessarily
after
so much.
You got out of the
that's the weird thing is it was more of a convenience of we can help each other while helping ourselves because of what each of us brought to the table of based on who and what we are and were, and it was a really weird, it was a dynamic that worked and was mutually beneficial.
Probably better than when you guys were dating.
Well, I'm talking about when we were dating. It was mutually beneficial, but it was, from my point of view, we were both being selfish. We gave to the other person what they needed because we got something out of it instead of just doing it because we cared for each other. And that's my point of view, how I see it. She may disagree, but and I think really after it, when we both started getting through our baggage, is when we really truly just cared about each other.
Gotcha. No.
So
that's pretty deep, man.
And
you get help from everywhere. I mean, I don't know, the term's probably not used nowadays. I was on the wrong side of the tracks. I mean, I was dirt poor.
That's here.
Yeah.
We're on the wrong side of the tracks right now.
I mean, I couldn't have been poorer. I mean, and
I didn't grow up that way, but
well, yeah, and then I grew up that way, and then it was I remember being hungry so many times. My mother would actually take my food and eat it. So my grandma would give me some food and she would eat it, and I'd go to bed hungry. I can't even tell you how many times, which it always affects you. I mean,
it does.
Being hungry, people. I'm glad you've never had to experience it, but sometimes.
Oh, I have. That's the weird thing.
Well, no, but some
most
my daughter sometimes she's like, "Oh, fuck my life, FML," and I'm like, "You have nothing ever to say that about."
It was weird because I was given a very blessed childhood. I was well provided for, taken care of.
No, I don't.
But as a young adult, I went my own way, good or bad or indifferent. There was many times I was too prideful to ask for help from my parents. Just because the way I was raised is, if you're on your own, you're on your own. If you're in dire straits, we've got you, but you got to figure this out.
I was brought up that way too. You were on your own and you didn't ask for help. And I've had some people help me in some really important areas of my life, and those people, even if they didn't change me at that time, later on they changed me, and it made me into the person who I am nowadays.
I was like, I don't know, 17, 18, and I had a tiff with my father about something. I was doing something he didn't think was right or approve of. And I'll to this day, I'll remember this happening. He said, "Listen, I love you, but I'm going to tell you this right now. One day, you're going to wake up and realize my old man's not as dumb as I think he is. I don't know as much as I think I do. And he was right about a lot more shit than I realized." And it's funny, I was 19, working side jobs, just, scraping by. There was weeks that the choice was, do I eat ramen or, am I buying liquor and beer? How am I filling my stomach? And we had a, where I was living, we were a big party house. And just this one night, we all got shit faced. And I just drank way too much Bacardi 151. And it's like 3 in the morning. Everyone else is past 3, 4 in the morning. Everyone else is passed out drunk. And we're living off of Malaluca, which is 6th Avenue South. And I just was dying, but I could not puke anything up. It just would not come up. So I walked from our apartment to 6th and Congress to the convenience store, the gas station there. And back then, because I wasn't eating healthy and everything else, I had severe lactose intolerance.
Oh. Gotcha.
So I went and bought the small bottle of whole milk. Started walking back to the apartment, and I just started chugging it. And as I'm chugging it, all of a sudden it just hit my stomach. Lactose intolerance kicked off, and I just started puking. So I'm walking all the way back down Malaluca now.
That's a visual, guys.
Puking the whole way. And as I get back and I lay down to go to sleep, I'm like, fuck. What my dad said to me came right back to my head.
You got to ask yourself sometimes. You got to hit that rock bottom.
And then like at 8 in the morning, I sat here, 8, 9 in the morning, I called my dad on a Sunday. I'm like, Dad, you remember when you told me that? He's like, yeah. I'm like, you were right. He's like, I told you were going to tell me I was right. I'm like, I know you did. You don't have to tell me I told you so on top of it.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does.
Because I would. I'm a nice guy, but I'm an asshole.
Well, it's like when I got married, I married 2 amazing daughters as well. And there was times we struggled as a family, and there were times where it was, do I make sure the kids get enough to eat, or do we all kind of stay a little hungry? And no, I'm not hungry for dinner tonight, or I didn't like what it was, so the kids could fill up. And
so that's huge.
And after everyone was done,
my daughter, I have a stepdaughter too, and you just give so much to your children.
And after after they were done eating, if there was anything left, then I would eat what was ever left. And sometimes that meant I didn't eat.
Yeah.
And I mean, wasn't a long time. And, my ex-wife did her damnedest, when we hit those hard parts. Like, that's the one thing, like, she did some fucked up shit, but when times got tough, she did her damnedest to make sure that she chipped in and did what she could to help. Like, I'll give her credit on that. She might have been a piece of shit in other ways, but when it came to hitting rock bottom, she would step up and hustle and whatever it was to make sure that, at least, there was enough food that everyone could have a little something in their stomach. But, I could not.
Can't take it, yeah.
Well, I couldn't fail my father and my mother, or my grandparents. Like, the way I was raised, like, the worst thing I could ever imagine doing, outside of letting my children be hurt when I could stop it, would be sending them to bed hungry.
Yeah, that's about. Out of everything I've been through, I still think that's some of the worst.
And like like the fact that you had a parent do that to you, just like,
yeah, she was special.
Horrible. Like, because that's just something I never experienced growing up. As a teenager, being, as a young teenager, young 20s, doing stupid stuff, making my own choices, that's on me. I'm going to bed hungry because I decided to drink my dinner instead. That's my fault. A child doesn't have any say in that.
Yeah.
So
kind of like, for me, it's also like animals. I mean, a dog, you guys, for me, because my animal, for the longest time, my dogs were like my children, and they are. So I'm a huge fan of I treat them. Sometimes they would give me the motivation to go through some of the horrible stuff you had to go through. So whether kids or pets. So for me, that's always been a big thing.
I feel you on that. That was the hardest. Like, I see people post, don't have a dog if you're gonna give it up. And like, one of the hardest things harder than even burying my grandparents, who I love, was, after my divorce, shit went sideways on me. I lost my business. Almost lost my house, fucking no power, no water in the house for, months, no money. I'm making a choice. Do I feed myself? Do I buy food for myself, or do I buy dog food for my dog? You know, and if I went to Wendy's and grabbed 3 cheeseburgers, it was 2 for the dog, 1 for me.
Yeah.
You know, and
Because they're innocent children in their own way, and you've taken them on and agreed to
you know,
raise them, to keep them.
and things got so bad finally, and the ex-wife couldn't take the dog to her place, and she didn't really care for the dog either.
You had to give them up.
So I had to give Kira up, and like when I took her to Peggy Adams, like I cried on their shelter floor for a good half hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of the most horrible emotional days of my life. Like worse than losing my grandparents. I mean, fortunately my grandparents were older when they died, so they had a full life. Having to give up my dog because shit just went sideways. And that's part of why I was really cold and cut off was, with all the shit that was happening, a good portion of it was definitely my own fault. I didn't have my priorities right. But the realization that I'm having to make this choice because of my mistakes, and now I have to do the right thing.
And you have to live with it too.
Yeah.
That's rough.
I
mean, that's a lot of respect. I mean, because you're trying to give them a better. You realize you couldn't do it, and that's a horrible feeling.
It was a terrible feeling because this isn't,
After that, did that kind of put you on the right track?
No, that actually put me way off track. That sent me in. I went way off the rails at that point, like way off the rails. No give a fuck. I was not a good person to be around at that. After that, like,
you gotta have. Everyone has to have their time to go through their bumps. And it seems like in today's day and age with the internet and social media that you can't do that. You got everything you do. If someone takes a picture, it's there forever. Yep. Companies can look at everything you did.
Everything you've ever posted.
Yeah.
I almost lost a job over that. Something I posted back when I was 17, 18 or 19.
I mean,
and I was 30 something at the time.
I mean, when do you get a chance to learn from your mistakes and become a better person? If people are going back and also sometimes even in a lot of the news stuff you see today, people going back to another age and time. They're going back to the 1980s or the 1960s, or the 2000s, and they're pulling up stuff out of contents and out of not understanding, not having it taken from where it was at the time, and it was a different world with different rules and different thoughts. All these things that we have nowadays are people growing and changing and making things better, but it had to start from somewhere. You can't take the rules of what you think is right today and go back 40 years or 30 years and use those same right and wrong contexts, because it was a different time period, and it took people a long time to evolve and develop to be better. And part of that was looking at what was wrong around you and making it better, and then looking at what was around you again that you didn't like, and yet again making it better. I mean, and all of a sudden you go back and look at stuff. Oh, well, when you were 30 years ago, when you were 17 years old, or
Yeah, you made a misogynistic joke, so you can't work here.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember in the early 2000s, a lot of companies still had porn on their networks, and a lot of business.
Yes, you could go through their land and
in a construction company, you'd have all these different pictures on the walls because it was mostly just guys working construction.
Yeah, the calendars. And
and that was just it wasn't.
That was the culture.
Yeah, it wasn't wrong or right. It just was. I mean, no one even thought twice about it. Women didn't think twice about it. Men didn't think twice about it.
Snap-on came by, gave you a calendar, and it was a bunch of hot women on it, and that was the calendar, so you didn't go out and buy one.
Yep. And then I remember on the servers. I was working at this construction company, and the servers were full with porn, and I'd go to people's personal drives, directories, and start deleting them. Hey, I'm missing some files. I'm like, no porn on the server. And yeah, go. And it wasn't even wrong. It wasn't even thought of. It wasn't even a concept. And then all of a sudden, over a 1 or 2 year time period, it became outlawed. But people didn't get the chance to be told, all right, this is how we're doing things. All of a sudden, they just started laying the hammer down, and it wasn't allowed, and the cultural work culture changed, and all of a sudden, it was bad. And it's like, why? You got to give culture has to have time to change. People shouldn't be wrecked because of what they use. I mean, okay, well, if that's what we're doing, I'm okay with that. I understand where we're coming from, let's make the change and go forward.
Well, a lot of that was in reaction to lawsuits and stuff like that, litigation that had occurred through a lot of companies, and all of a sudden it was, oh shit, we could be next. Put the hammer down on anyone that, so we show we're proactive.
But there was never any memo. There was never.
No,
any
there wasn't. It was
discussion.
just
they just
out.
started firing people.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden you were a bum because how dare you have a ladies' calendar on your wall at the mechanic place or the construction site, and there was no. It's just interesting how that goes sometimes. So I mean, and that I don't find that right. I mean, all right, let's make some changes. Let's talk about it, and let's say why we're doing it. And you need to take it seriously to so that you don't offend people, and that's good too. And nowadays, I mean, it almost seems like discrimination is. I mean, it's discriminate. It's almost like you have to. Well, we have to pay you back for anything how things used to be. No, how about we just move forward as a people, and you just get better. And why do we all of a sudden have to somehow try to make people who didn't do stuff suffer for previous?
Yeah, previous mistakes of others.
Yeah.
I like the way they put. Wow, we've gone on for a lot longer than I expected.
I don't know what. Yeah, tell me what it is. I mean, because damn, my wife's gonna be like.
So, the series is called The World. Jason Cheek is the author. Books 1 through 5. How do they find the book? Where's the best place to go?
Amazon. I do because I'm doing and Audible. So if audible.com or amazon.com, just put in Jason Cheek or The World, and you'll find my books. Lots of fun. And honestly, I'm just trying to take it as real as I can with how people are, good and the bad, and just just telling a good story. So if you like gaming, if you like fantasy, that's it. And hopefully, I'm planning to come out with a sci-fi series in the future. So, anyways, as awesome as always, man.
Thank you for coming, ladies and gentlemen. As always, pleasure to have you. Now, fuck off.
Ciao.